everyone, welcome back to another episode of Bench Press Podcast. If you are new to our podcast, welcome and please feel free to listen to our past episode. So for today's topic, we are going to have a discussion on the farmers' protest in India, which has been ongoing for a couple of months now. It was in the end of last year when the protest started, and even with the current situation with COVID, the protest continues. It all started after the government implemented 3 new farming acts which were seen as a threat to the farmers' livelihood. However, the government see the 3 farming acts as a good opportunity to improve the agricultural sector and also to improve the farmers' livelihood. So, what is these 3 new farming acts about? Why are they being implemented? How can the farmers and the government get into a resolution? Join us as we talk about these important points with our friend Tripti Gupta, who is from India and currently taking her master's in the Ritsumeikan University. Without further ado, let me welcome you to our today's episode, and I hope that you all liked it. Hello Tripti, welcome to Bench Press.
Hi. Hello, everybody.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
It's been a while since the last time we saw you, right?
Yeah, I think so. Tripti and I share a few classes together, but this is the first time we've seen each other in a while, face to face, because all of our classes have been online. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It's quite tough for everyone.
Yeah.
So, what are you up to recently?
Well, this is my vacation, so I have been doing my part-time and, traveling, around Kyoto. But during my online classes, I was just busy doing classes, talking to family, and that's it.
I see. Yeah, okay. Before we move on to our topic, could you give us an introduction of yourself first?
Yes. My name is Tripti Gupta, and I have been in Japan for almost 5 years. And now I'm in my master's second semester in Ritsumeikan with Joe, and I did my undergrad also with you all. And so before coming here, I was in the university called JNU, which is in Delhi. And back in India, I come from the eastern state of Bihar. Thank you.
Thank you, Tripti. So let us first ask our first question. So with all the happening in India, with the farmers' protest in India, could you give us a brief explanation of the 3 farming acts or policy that caused all this protest in India?
Yes, so very rightly you pointed out that this has been one of the longest protests in the independent India, and the reasons were the 3 bills that got passed in September last year. So I would explain the bills in brief. So the first act is Empowerment and Protection Act. If I had to say that in a line, would be that hereby farmers could get into the written contracts with anyone, including private buyers, giant companies, or the big corporates. And the two parties would decide what qualities of produce they want, what would be the price of the produce beforehand. So this is basically that they can provide them a legal framework that they can protect the farmers. That's the first thing. Second is Promotion and Facilitation Act. Here the farmers can sell their produce anywhere, not just the APMC mandis. So APMC it stands for Agriculture Produce Marketing Committee, and these are the state government controlled marketing yards. So these earlier, before these laws were passed, these were the mandis or the markets where the farmers could sell their produce. So that would be the mandis explanation. And the third bill, which is the last one, would be the Essential Commodities Bill. The similar bill has also been passed in the year 1955 to prevent the hoarding of essential commodities, for example, rice, wheat, and onion and stuff, which can, affect the lives of the normal people. However, the difference in this year has been that this act allows intrastate and interstate, trade, and the farmers can produce and sell their, crops to anybody within, even online, and as I said, intrastate and interstate too.
Okay, so what exactly is the issue with these farming bills? Like, why are the farmers protesting?
Right. So these three bills have their own issue. For example, the first one, talking about, as I said, there would be a written contract, right? So the farmers are of the assumption that the APMC mandis, which gives them the minimum support price, that's MSP, that's the floor price assured to the farmers for 22 crops, by the way, that this is the minimum price that they would get that they would get for, right? Mm-hmm. So they are of the assumption that this might go away. That's the first thing, with coming of the different marketing system. That's the first thing. Second thing is that even if they get into the written contract, the farmers are not that powerful that they can file a case against the giant companies. That's the second issue. Third issue is that it's the legal issue maybe, that agricultural marketing is according to, I guess, Schedule 7 of the Constitution. It comes under the state government. However, the center came with the, the legal, the laws, right? So they were like that, how can you come with the laws? How did center make the law if it's the state affair? So that was the third point. And fourth point is that, as I said, that for the essential commodities bill, that they are preventing the hoarding, right? They say that if they're allowed to hoard some products outside the APMC mandis, what would happen would be that this will actually create a black marketing, as the supermarkets are now allowed to hoard the products. So these are the confusion basically that backfired, and the protests are being taken place. Yeah.
So why why do you think the government established these three acts? Is there any particular reason behind it?
Yes. So I guess I will start with the APMC Act, where when India got independence in the year 1947, earlier what happened was that the farmers were allowed to sell their produce directly to the consumers. However, they were trapped in the vicious circle where they had to take loans at higher interest from local landlords, and to pay back the higher interest, they would use the earnings that they earned by selling the crops. And again, to grow the new crops, they would again have to buy to take the loans at the higher rates, right? So this vicious cycle was going on. So to break these middlemen business, APMC Act came in, where they said that you don't have to sell crops to anybody but directly to us. And they assured with the MSP, as I discussed just now, right? And what happened was that, however, this has become an issue in itself. It has become an oppressor and a reason for farmers' exploitation. How? Would be that this is a very complicated system. So what happens is that I would try to explain in brief the mechanism of how APMC works. So the farmers come directly to the APMC mandis and they sell their crops, okay? And from there, they have a sum called, which is arthiyas. Arthiyas are the middlemen who are licensed commissioned agents. What happened is that they take the commission, which is, I guess, from 1.5 to 3%. And these commission are paid by the farmers. From there, it goes to the traders who fix the prices, that what would be the prices of the produce. And from the traders, it goes to, the wholesalers, retailers, and many, many vendors. And then it goes to the consumers, right? So you can see that there is a whole, and it's not transparent too. The way I'm saying, it's not as easy as I'm saying, yeah? And the whole process, what happens is till the time it reaches to the consumers, 25% of the agriculture produce is wasted. First thing this. Second thing is that the price of the product is increased by 50%. And the benefit is not given to the farmers. It is being given to the middlemen. Thus, it has led to the exploitation. And we have been seeing that many of the suicides, at least, I guess many suicides that take place in India, majority of them are by farmers. So we are seeing that they are being exploited. So just to avoid this thing, this act was introduced. That's the first thing. Second thing, the people who are into the APMC money, the officers, they are told to be, the people who have, close connections with the state government, because it's a state government affair, right? So no normal meaning, no, the academically talented person could be. You need to have the political connections for that. So that was creating a cartel. That's the second reason. Third reason is that sometimes these people, they create a cartel where they would set the price, that we would not purchase the produce above MSP. So whatever MSP has been fixed by the government, we would just produce that. Meaning that even if the farmers could get, more benefits, they won't get. Why? Because these are the people where the farmers could sell the produce and they have already set a price, right? Mm-hmm. But sometimes also what happens is that, see, the quality of the produce, it's very perishable, right? So its value decreases by time to time. Mm-hmm. So what happens is that farmers, what they do that, even if I'm getting less than, the MSP, what would they do that at least I can get some money. So they compromise even with the MSP. So just to avoid all these things, this has come into existence. Yeah.
Mm. Okay, so it seems that the government, of course, they introduced the bill with the farmers in mind, right? So why did it backlash? Was there a misunderstanding between the government and
that's
the farmers?
True. And I guess that's the total blame would be on the government, the ruling party. Prime Minister Modi, he has been known as the best communicator of the world, as we know. But however, he did fail to communicate with all the involved stakeholders. He had to, and he should have been taken all the stakeholders into confidence. But that did not happen, and thus, it backfired. Because farmers said that if you are taking these steps, you should have taken them into consideration. However, I'm not voicing anything from the government, but still, as you can see, we don't have any farmer union on the national level. We have many organizations. There is no one single leader. So if you think on the side of the government whom to contact, So, yeah.
So if I get this correctly, there's a matter with transparency here, right? So like the farmers feel like they're not being involved in the decision, in the lawmaking process, and then they suddenly, this bill is introduced. Is that right? I see.
Okay, just to have an image, how is the current protest how successful are they going for the farmers?
Well, so there's no doubt that the farmers and the other stakeholders should have been, consulted. They should have been taken into confidence. However, what I believe is, and also one mistake was that when these laws were introduced, many of the farmers from states, especially states of Punjab and Haryana, they approached to the capital, New Delhi. However, the government, what they did, that they didn't talk to them. Rather, they were introduced with, tear gases and, rubber bullets, which is, I believe that the capital city belongs to no one but everybody. So they should have been welcomed, which was not there. So until this point, personally speaking, I was in the favor of, the farmers' protest. However, things went downhill, since 26th January, which is the Republic Day for India. And this year was the 72nd anniversary. What happened was that, because due to the agitation that, things were not, proceeding the way farmers wanted, they said that, there would be a tractor rally. So I hope you're aware of the tractor. Yeah. So the farmers, they said that we would, go on the 26th January, we would come with a rally. So many tractors would come, and they appealed many farmers of all entire country that you should join us. And Supreme Court, they said them, please go. It's okay. You have the right. And they gave them a particular path that you need to choose this way. However, what happened was that in between they, deflected from the given path, and they chose a different path which led to violence, chaos, and there one protester died, and I guess more than 55 policemen were injured. Many barricades were broken. Although the real event, the Republic Day ceremony was not interrupted. However, violence was there, and what I believe as an Indian, that a nation is a nation. Everybody should, belong to the republic. You feel that, yeah. However, there was a flag hoisting too, which is a regional flag. right? So I guess that was, so the protest since then has not been appealing to many of the country people there. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Especially, okay, so I know that the protests are mostly centered in the northern states.
Yes.
Right? Haryana and Punjab.
Right.
So why is that?
Yes. So these two states are in a line, if I would say that these two states are the one who are the maximum beneficiaries of the minimum support price, and that's just not the northern, just the two states, Haryana and Punjab. And when you consider these farmers, so we tend to have an image, especially of Indian farmers, we do believe that, farmer, they don't have their own land, very poor. But trust me, these two the farmers of these two states have a different image. They are very rich, own very, very much, bigger plot of land. So, yeah. So these two are the beneficiaries that I said of the minimum support price. And as I said, that they are of an assumption that APMC would vanish. Coming of the private companies would eliminate the APMC and thus the minimum support price too. And this benefit that they are getting, they won't get it, right? And their income and everything might get affected, right? So that's why they are affected so much. We don't see many protests from the farmers from Bihar or other states, because they are not the beneficiaries of these, this thing.
I see. Well, we're on the topic here of, we now know that there's also, it's divided between states, right? So like the northern states are the beneficiaries here. And related to this, I also heard that the Jat community forms the backbone of this protest. So the Jat community, it's very influential in these protests. So I was wondering, does the caste system in India have any effect on the protests? Like, is there some kind of division there?
I guess not really. I mean, farmers in India, they do not have a particular caste, but especially in Haryana, Jat community are influential. However, I guess it's more on caste. It's more divided state-wise, Yeah.
Yeah, I have one question with regards to the media perspective. In your perspective, there has been a lot of issues between the local media and the international media. So I guess it was there were a lot of very famous celebrities or actors in the international world that has commented on the issue, and they want to raise awareness about it, like Rihanna and Greta Thunberg. And they were criticized by the local media of India. And do you think there are any discrepancies within the local media?
I guess, I should say yes. Why? Because, international media is more keen on the voice of the farmers and the protest, which is not wrong. I totally agree. Because they are the one that, we see them weak and less powerful, so they should be heard. What I also want to point out, however, is that you also need to understand that Supreme Court got involved. Every media, international one especially, they are talking about that how many rounds have been taken and they have been failing. But they did not address that Supreme Court also got involved into it. And 3 important decisions came from the court. That right to protest has been a fundamental right now. And the second was that there has to be a solution after discussion with the farmers by the government. Yeah. And that's why we have seen more than dozen of rounds till now. And the third is that there would be a stay order on these laws until a final solution is reached. So I guess, the government stand that they are ready to, discuss the misunderstanding or apprehensions and their acceptance that, we should have contacted them before and they are ready to, negotiate or whatnot. It should have been also given, it would be better if it is also given an equal attention.
All right, so Tripti, can you clarify what the government's take on this issue is?
Oh yes.
So the one on the bill, sorry. Yeah.
So the government claims that, as I said, the first law would, get the farmers into contract with the private buyers too. So what happens is that, in a way, it tried to protect and empower farmers to sell the produce to anyone, including even the APMC. That's the first thing. Meaning, to the second point, that it would give them more choices. Just not the legal safety is there, because there has been a concern that many of the farmers are very small and marginal, and they have land. Yeah. So if suppose the quality of the produce is not according to the standard decided by the private buyer, if they fail to meet, what would happen? Would the land be taken away? So obviously that would be a problem for the farmers, because that would be their only asset, right? However, this has been very much explicitly mentioned in the bill that not in any case the land would be mortgaged or sold or be taken by the private buyer. So this is a safety net. But again, to mention that where would these farmers go? How would, if there is an issue, what penalty would be given to the those businessmen and businesswomen, or what would happen? What would be the minimum remuneration that farmers would get? These specific details need to be decided. Yeah. That's the thing. And the third, that according to PRS India, it is a standing agricultural committee. In the year 2018 and 19 came up with information that APMC needed reforms, APMC Act. Because of that, I said the cartel and, the local connection and whatever they are the things are happening, which is the things, you see. So to break it down, APMC needed reforms. And this has been acknowledged just not by the ruling party, but the current opposition party. 2019 manifesto of the Congress, the opposition party, they did say that APMC need reforms. Even in the year 2013, when this party was ruling, they said that APMC should be ripped off. They wanted to just, cut it off. However, this system still exists. APMC and the minimum support price to backup as a backup option for those farmers, it exists. This is what the government is trying to say. And the second thing, last point that I would want to mention is that many of the produce is being wasted for the first reason that, the entire complicated process. Second reason that the number of the cold storages in the state government APMC mandis is very less. If you allow these, these produce to be hoarded anywhere else, it gives, it saves the crops entirely.
Okay, so from a legal perspective, the agriculture marketing is a state affairs, a state matter. So why was this law created by the central government then?
That's one of the reason, I guess, many people, just not among the farmers, but outside the farmers community, are also, thinking and being concerned about. So I would go into the legal details. So the Schedule 7 of the Constitution has three lists, list 1, 2, and 3. So according to the list 1, according to the list 2, this agriculture marketing is definitely a state affair. However, the list 3, it does say that central government is more powerful than the state government. And the Article 248 and 249 of the Constitution, which I guess people are not considering, allows the central government to make the laws, whereby there is a matter of national interest. The central government have the residuary powers to make legislate the laws. That would be the one. I can also give an example, as I I discussed in my previous answers, that Essential Commodities Act was also introduced in the year 1955. No business with the current government, right? So it was enacted, despite it being the state affairs, right? And it was enacted in the entire country. So taking that into consideration, legally, the central are apt and, they are okay to make these laws.
So just an additional question. By this establishing mandis, do you think the government is trying to implicit or encourage the farmers to independently negotiate with private sectors? And in your opinion, what role should the government play? Should they interfere more or less?
Okay, so with that, I would refer to the 1990 and 91 economic reforms of India, whereby they opened up and they adopted LPG, which is not liquefied petroleum gas, by the way, and it stands for liberalization, privatization, and globalization. And talking about this case, I guess, and through that LPG, India has been one of the fastest growing economy, second only to China, and sometimes people say that it's, it bypassing China's fasting power, but COVID, it turned everything upside down. But that's a different story. However, talking about this case, I believe that direct engagement of farmers with the private sectors would give them more choices to sell their produce. That's the first thing. Second thing, it would also, help APMC to, improve and enhance their productivity. APMC that the cartel has been there, that would help that break down. And the exploitation of the farmers that has been going on shouldn't be there. The private engagement gives the farmers the security that you can tie yourself into the contract and still be safe because the contract is there and nobody can cheat you, right? However, I also believe that these farmers should not be left entirely at the hands of the big corporates, and this is where I see the role of the government essential. The government should be aware that farmers do not get exploited. For example, the details such as if the quality of the crops is not made what was decided in the contract, and the buyers, they disagree that we are not buying the crops. So what would happen, Because farmers cannot go to the civil courts for these purposes. They can go to the SDM, which is Self-Development Magistrate, I believe. Yeah. But they already have many grievances, because they are also, tasked with other duties. So this is already a time-taking process. So this has to be decided by the government, And APMC would act as a backup option for these farmers, that if private buyers are not buying and you're not satisfied, you already have your APMC where you have MSP and you can buy that. So government role should be there, but at a minimal level, so that you give them the room for the healthy competition and that animal spirit, should be there.
Okay, I just want to ask to make it clear. In this bills, who do you think would be the winners and the losers?
Well, I guess if taken, if the misunderstanding gets sorted, I guess it would be a win-win situation. Farmers would also win, and the government would also be there, and overall benefit for the nation. However, we see that there is a stalemate as the farmers are not ready to hear whatever the government is saying. They, it's taking so much of time. But if the things, as you see, if the backup option of APMC with the private marketing system is there, I guess it would be, both the sides would win, yeah.
Okay, I see. So how about we reverse that question? So what do you think would be the minimum concession that the government is willing to make?
Okay, so initially the government suggested some tweaks to the laws, and later it offered to suspend, them altogether up to 18 months, even when the negotiation, continue. But the farmers, they have remained firm and they are not ready to buy this argument. So the central government has also come up that they are ready to give in written that the MSP would not be taken away. But then the farmers are saying that at least you'd give us an assurity that the private marketing mandis would have a MSP price. But you see, taking on the government stand, MSP changes year to year, and it takes a whole, it's a very breathtaking, parliamentary process, which is time consuming, and it's not, easy to make that law. So that's something the government is not willing to do. But it's definitely assuring them that we are giving in written that MS won't be taken.
Okay, I guess that's it for us today. So first of all, we want to thank you for guesting in our podcast. Thank you, Tripti.
The pleasure has been mine. Thank you so much.
And that is our conversation with Tripti. It was really an insightful talk, especially for someone like me who knows a little about the issue. So what do you guys think? Joe?
Yeah, one of my key takeaways from this episode was that transparency is important in lawmaking process, especially if you want to live in a democracy. I think Tripti mentioned about that too. So one of the reasons behind the protest is that the farmers were not included in the discussion of this lawmaking process. So in that regard, I think the case of the Farm Bill's protest in India is actually quite similar to some of the protests that we had in Indonesia recently. So for example, with the Omnibus Law protest in Indonesia, although some people might dispute whether or not there was a lack of transparency there, but we're not going to go too deep into that because it's going to be, we can do that in another episode. But yeah, basically transparency is very important, and that's one of the things I learned today. And maybe we can also see that in like protests in other protests around the world. Yeah.
Yeah, I do also agree. I agree with what Joe said. And in addition, one thing that Tripti said, like how it can be a win-win situation, I think I could say that yes, at some point, because you can see like there are promising portion to the bills. It gives more like choices for the farmers to choose where to sell their products, and it gives them freedom as well. But then again, there are a lot of loopholes into the bills, such as the weakening of mandis and like the possibility of losing MSP or minimum support price, which is the only safe net that they have. So they are very, very anxious about it because there's no guarantee that it will benefit them. So for them, they wanted to be more, I think they wanted the MSP to be included in the bill. So at least in that sense, they will feel protected. As I read in an Indian journal magazine, they quoted this bill as the bills represent the right kind of reform done in a wrong way. So I guess that's where transparency comes, right? You have to as what Joe said, you have to include the people because they are the beneficiary of these bills more than anyone else, right?
Right. And I think it also relates to what we discussed in our interview with Tripti today about miscommunication. Right. So of course the government, they tried to make this bill with the farmers' well-being in mind, but because the farmers are not really included in this lawmaking process, there's a miscommunication between the two parties, and well, the government's attempt to increase the welfare of the farmers kind of backlash, right?
Yeah. That's true. That's why we always remind you guys, conversation is the key.
Yeah.
We need to talk to each other.
You know what? It's very interesting to hear this interview. Unfortunately, not in person because me and Dika, we are not in Japan anymore. We're in Indonesia, first of all, we would like to thank Tripti for the wonderful interview. I guess podcast she gave, right? And also good job to the two of you for hosting this episode. But really, Tripti brought a lot of light upon the issue and bringing the legal side. She highlights how the legal side is actually trying to, for the most part, defend, I guess, the farmers, and I guess somewhat misinterpreted by a lot of people because there's, like Joe said, a lack of communication and also lack of transparency and inclusion of discussion with the farmers. And yeah, I guess you guys have really summed it up well. I think for the most part, the farmers really wants security, which is the MSP plays a huge role in that, because their lives are really connected to this issue, right? And if there's no communication with the farmers, which is the beneficiary of this thing, then obviously we're gonna riot. Farmers are gonna riot, right? That's my thought on the issue, I guess. What do you think, Dika?
Yeah, for me, I guess, on the other note, I guess, as you all mentioned that transparency is the key. I think one of the key things that I take from this podcast as well, this episode, I think the true intention of the government is they want to modernize the farmers and the society back in India, because we know 58% of the population in India is farmers.
Farmers.
And but yeah, the most, but they lack the most important thing. They fail to do it, which is transparency, socialization. I think because I think nobody in this world likes sudden of change. Like suddenly, you to for example, tomorrow you will be not secure for your job. You will be in, there's nothing to hold, and security and so on. So I think that thing backlash did spark towards this protest, and that how do you say, did impacted all over the place in India, like COVID related stuffs and so on. So I think probably my main point is probably the government is trying their best to modernize the society and so on, but the lack of communication, they fail to do it. So I guess this is what other countries should at least learn from this protest, I guess.
And I think one thing that the government missed is like, I think they're moving too fast. As Tripti mentioned, you have to prepare the farmers.
Yeah.
You have to prepare them that they are acceptive towards the new bill. It's not that if you implement a bill, okay, the next day you have to follow this immediately. It's not
True.
how it works. You have to do it like slowly, and you have to give the information as well to the farmers. You have to educate them, or you have to inform them about this kind of changes, so that they won't be like shocked on the sudden change. I think this is also one factor why it became this big, because it's too sudden. It's just all of a sudden, okay, we have a new tree bill, and it's 3 bills. 3 bills at just one implementation. So I think, quoting Tripti, you have to prepare the farmers. You have to prepare the beneficiary before you implement certain laws or bills, right?
Yeah. And that's very interesting because it's also how we, or basically those who are not in the farmers' shoes, can look at the protests, because not just the farm bills protest in India, but basically any other protest. Because I know, for example, there are some people who were not in their shoes, but they might undermine the protesters, saying that, oh, they don't know, this is actually beneficial for them, but they're not educated enough to realize that, or like they're they're not educated enough to realize that, or basically they don't know what's best for them. And that's a very I don't know what's the word, elitist, maybe, like elitist kind of standpoint.
It's
so
easier said when you're
not in
a
their
higher
shoes,
position,
right?
I guess, right?
Yeah. So try to look at instead of trying to look at it that way, you can also try to look at it from I guess in this case the farmer's perspective, or the protesters' perspective. Basically, try to listen to what they want and try to find like a middle ground, right? If possible, try to find a middle ground instead of saying, "Oh, you don't know what's best for you." That's yeah.
And that's what they say. You have to step on that person's shoe, so that you could understand what they're coming from. And as what Joe mentioned, every one of us has their own like battles that we fight, our beliefs that we fight for. And I do believe that goes same for the farmers, because we don't know what they've been through, the sufferings they've been, and we've seen a lot of like high suicide rates towards the Indian farmers. So I guess we should be more like understanding, in a sense, on the protests that they are currently doing. So we don't judge them for like all of a sudden doing putting all the trucks, convey truck, how do you, like the trucks for farming in the roads, blocking
Tractors?
the roads, because it's only them. I mean, like, it's their experiences and we haven't experienced it. So I think one thing we could do is to also, like, share the information about about this like protest, as what we do in this podcast. We try to also educate the people that surrounds us. because I think it's very important.
Yeah.
And they're just also humans. They have their rights that they wanted to be heard.
And it doesn't
So I
have
think-
to be
yeah.
it doesn't even have to be political. I mean, what I mean
Yeah.
by that is that basically you have to try to see things from the other's perspective. So whether or not, regardless of whether or not you like agree or disagree with whatever the government is trying to do, you have to also try to look at it from all stakeholders' perspective. That's basically
That's true.
That's really hard to do though. But
true.
But I really think that in the long run, maybe in the really really long run, that these bills will be very beneficial to Indian farmers. Dika brought a really interesting topic, which is modernization and the ability to discuss with the I guess with the company or someone that you want to deal with directly. Especially with like social media, right? And you know, the internet and stuffs, it's gonna be easier for them to do it. And I think it will raise the standard of lives for these farmers. At the same time, I do think in the very beginning, at least, this minimum level of security, which is probably the MSP is the answer. I don't know. It is really needed because it can also be abused by these third party people, right? Yeah, but
True.
interestingly as well, when we relate it to peace, right? Because this podcast is all about peace. I think if we look at it from an international perspective, or at least national perspective, this protest demonstrations that's been going on, it's really dangerous for the national safety. I wouldn't say like security, but more like safety, because it involves a lot of people. At some point, even there are even demonstrations with up to 100,000 people, and also scuffles and violence involved as well with the police. And these demonstrations with, you know, the whole COVID thing going on can be very dangerous. I guess it's just unlucky timing, I guess. But yeah, looking at it from a peace perspective, there's more on the direct violence side, I guess, in this case.
So I guess we have to cut this conversation since we are running out of time. But I hope you learned something from this episode. And it was really an insightful and fun one. So I hope we could see you on our next episode, which is tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Watch
Is it
for-
tomorrow?
It is.
It is tomorrow.
Right. Okay.
Please, Andrew. It's tomorrow. Did you forgot?
You know, I usually just sleep and you know, let the uploading thing goes to Dika. So, but anyways, look forward to tomorrow.
All right.
Yeah. See you tomorrow,
And-
guys.
See you tomorrow.
Alright.
Bye
See
bye.
ya.
Bye. And we're gonna
Wait.
go. Peace
Out, right? Peace out.
Peace out.
Peace
Peacing out.
Ciao.
out. Bye bye.